Now, mind that luggage. If anything gets scuffed, I'm reupholstering it with you. Now, have you packed the masks? Yes. Have you packed my double jab certificate? Yes. Okay. Now, while I'm up for spring, I want you to do all that you can to get that horsey back in the stable. 18 freaking months. No more than that. 20 months. Oh, you've got to get that thing back in the stables. Otherwise, it'll be on your head. Hello? Hello? Excuse the clothes. Excuse the clothes. Unfortunately, my smother rather insists on me dressing in season. I'm just heading topside. Boy, your whole world has gone really crazy. Even I had to get vaccinated to go up topside. I mean, can you believe it? I have to prove that just to go topside, to bring spring for you all ungrateful mortals. Anyway, talking about ungrateful mortal things, here is a book. Here is a book. You should get it, because then your horrible, horrible manuscripts will stop coming down here and polluting Hades. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about that. Or pestilence's current, excursion, shall we say. Extended excursion. No, I am here to talk to you about Falstaff Part 2. Okay, technically, it's called Henry IV Part 2, but we all know it's Falstaff Part 2. See, I brought you Part 1 a while ago, so I had to bring you Part 2, and frankly, it's just more Falstaff, so, yeah, it's all good. I like Falstaff. So, Falstaff Part 2. Yes, I do insist on calling it that, so you just live with it. Live with it. Falstaff Part 2 opens with Northumberland hearing reports of what has happened at the Battle of Salisbury, which is what happened at the end of Falstaff Part 1. Yes, I am well aware it has another name. This is what I call it. At the end of Falstaff Part 1, Hotspur had lost the battle and been killed by Hal. And so everything is all very, very different from where it started out at the beginning of Falstaff Part 1. So Northumberland is waiting to hear news of how the battle is going, because he didn't send his troops in to support his son. He was sick and he didn't support his son. And at first he gets word that everything has gone their way, but it's only rumor heard from here and there and everywhere, and not really true, as we all know. Until he thinks this is wonderful until he finally gets proper news from somebody who was actually at the battle, and it did not go their way. His brother and his son are both being killed, so yeah, not good. However, Falstaff is having a great time, because here is he come back from the wars. He is the hero of Salisbury, and he is making the absolutely most of it, because make hay while the sun shines, as they say. So he is going about. He's been given a squire by Hal, And he is going about making the best of this and borrowing money where he can and playing the great war hero and basically being Falstaff. Because Falstaff's great fun. Anyway, so he's doing this. And the Lord Chief Justice is still trying to pursue him after the robbery of Gad Hill at the beginning of Falstaff Part 1. And the Lord Chief Justice is very much like, well, you know, so they banter a bit. They banter. He's very much like, because of your great service, I won't be pursuing this. But you are supposed to be heading for the Duke of Lancaster, Prince John's troop. The king has separated you from Hal and given you to his younger brother to serve in his army. Currently, there is fighting in Wales that the king is involved in. There is fighting towards Scotland, I think, in the north anyway, that Prince John is involved in, and somebody else is fighting against the French. They're not too sure who has commission of that part of the army. But that this is all happening is of much concern to the Chief Justice. Is that you should not be whiling your way around in London. You need to be going, and you're supposed to be getting troops. What are you doing here? So Falstaff is also decided, he's sending off some letters to people via his boy, and he says, you know, you will find me at the Boar's Head as usual. So the rebels, led by the Archbishop of York, are now planning what is their next little move. Now, in all honesty, the historical parts of this play are actually a lot more minor than in the last play. It's really just tying up loose ends. There's not as much historical thing. This one is Falstaff's play. But the rebels are deciding, okay, well, what is our next move? This isn't over yet. Which is like, you're flogging a dead horse, boys. You're flogging a dead horse. And they think that they're going to be fine so long as they get Northumberland's men, which they're sure to get, though Northumberland has just lost his son. So, you know, is this a dead cert? I don't know. I wouldn't count on it. Back in London, Mistress Quickly, who appears to have come down in the world, Mistress Quickly is very annoyed at Falstaff, who has borrowed money from her, and she wants him arrested. And so she has some men accost him in the street to arrest him. And it all comes out after they start brawling in the street, because nobody wants to go and actually fight with Falstaff, because he might be big and fat and drunken and lecherous and a thief. But he's actually not too... He can hold his own in a fight, mostly because he's bigger than everyone, and Bardolph is there, and his boy. So, you know, you're probably going to get thumped. And the brawling brings again Falstaff's old friend, the Chief Justice, who wants to know what is going on. And Mistress Quickly, with the mouth of a fishwife, informs the Chief Justice that Falstaff owes her money, 30 shillings, and promised to marry her. Of course, she also let slip that she'd been stooping Falstaff for quite some time, and so she's a little bit indiscreet. The Chief Justice, feeling somewhat soiled by this whole thing, basically tells Falstaff, look, pay the lady and marry her. Just do it. And you are supposed to be heading north and picking up men. So do it. So, also, he receives word which interests Falstaff, because Falstaff is actually interested in what is happening with the king. He has the king's colours after all. He's on the king's side, that the king has come sick back from Wales. Wales has not yet been fully achieved, but the king has had to return ill. So the king is not in good health. Falstaff and Mistress Quickly come to an arrangement. Falstaff sort of placates her. Basically, he's been running like one of those romance scams. You know, like the old ladies who get like text messages and stuff and saying, I need money, but I really, really loves you. He's been doing that. And so he placates Mistress Quickly, who so is running a bawdy house by this point, and borrows £10 of her. He'd already tried it with the Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice was having none of it. I'm not lending you £1,000, Falstaff. Are you mad? I hate you. So he will try it on with anyone. But Mistress Quickly, he sends off to Mistress Quickly that, you know, he manages to placate her into doing what he wants her to do. Okay, now Hal is back from where he has been. And he is talking with Poins, and he knows his father's ill, and he's not happy about this, but he feels that if he were to actually show how he feels about his father, people would call him a hypocrite because of how he has been behaving. He also feels he's rather outgrown Poins, because Hal isn't the same Hal who was hanging out with him in Falstaff Part 1. This Hal has been to war. This Hal has killed. He killed Hotspur in one-on-one combat. He is not the same Hal. And really, you could say the whole theme of the play is rather that you can't go home again. As the Thomas Wolfe saying has it, you can't go home again. There is, in the first play, we have a play of innocence, and in this one, we have a Hal who is experienced. And although the experienced Hal will still play a little trick on Falstaff like he used to, it seems to be empty and devoid, because you can't go backwards. It's just like Odysseus. Odysseus travelling all that way off to war, and then 10 years getting lost because he pissed off my Uncle Poseidon. We don't like him very much either, but he really pissed off my Uncle Poseidon. And then he gets back home and discovers, oh, my 15-year-old wife is now 35. My baby son is now 20. There's a whole ton of suitors in the castle, and nobody seems to remember me. See, you can't go home again. And you really can't go home again when you slay all your neighbours' sons in the nude. Just saying. That little bow trick he had. Naked. Kind of, like, I'm just saying, I think he had a little bit of cuckoo. I think 20 years, the PTSD really kicked in by that point. You can't go home again. Is never the same. Especially not when you kill all your neighbours. That's a bad one. That's a bad one. Needless to say, Hal is feeling a little bit like this. He didn't slaughter anyone in the nude, just as well, because he would not have the reputation he has now as Henry V if he had slaughtered a whole load of people in the nude, just saying. But Hal is feeling that his old amusements are somewhat empty. But he isn't yet in a position where he wishes to completely disavow his former self. He is not yet ready. The prodigal son job that he's playing, he's not yet ready to turn repentant. Not yet. Not yet. But we do know this is coming because he said so at the beginning of the first part. So he and Pons decide that they're going to dress up and hear what Falstaff says of them when he doesn't think they're there. So this is all, you know, another funny trick, much like the robbery trick. Northumberland is preparing to get his forces together to support the other rebels until his wife and the widow of Hotspur, his daughter-in-law beg him, don't join this. And his daughter-in-law quite shames him for it because she says, well, you didn't give help to Hotspur and I lost a husband who I will spend the rest of my life lamenting, poor lady. And you would give succor to these people and then talk of honour. You didn't think of your honour when you left your own son to die on the battlefield. This kind of works. Really heavy shaming, but hey, works. Just going to say, works. And so he's like, all right, I think I will piss off to Scotland because that sounds like the best idea. So that's what he does. He goes off to Scotland and leaves the rebels without his forces. Mistress Quickly her establishment has definitely sunk to the level of a brothel as she helps the very soppy drunk Doll Tearsheet, who is being sick, having drunk far too much canary wine or sack. She has drunk a huge amount and now she's being sick. So, charming. She's not even running a really nice brothel. She's running a really grubby, low brothel. But what else would you expect Falstaff to be in? No judgy. She's got to earn a living somehow, but no judgy. But yeah, she's really sunk down in the world. Doll Tearsheet then starts to flirt and make love, soppy, drunken love to Falstaff. And Falstaff's ensign pistol comes in, all roaring and raging and using all this chivalric language, which all completely out of context and out of use, and really making a mockery of everything that was Hotspur with all his chivalry. It's like, this is all that's left out, a thing of shreds and patches and whose biggest and he and Doll Tearsheet have a big disagreement. They hate each other because he tore her rough. That is his great big claim to heroism. He tore the ruff of a whore. Not really the great hero. He is such a noisy, painful creature that they managed to get him out of doors and get rid of him. And Hal and Pons come in dressed as servers and listen to what Falstaff says of them, which is none too flattering. But then again, did you expect it to be flattering? Is it ever flattering? Falstaff only ever flatters people to their face in search of money. We all know that. So they then reveal themselves, trick, like in the old days. But you know, and Hal tells Falstaff off for being so very rude, but it just doesn't have the spark and the banter of the old days, because, well, Hal has seen Falstaff for what he is. Hal has seen Falstaff on the battlefield play possum. Hal has seen Falstaff on the battlefield steal the body of the man he killed. Suddenly, Falstaff, this is the experience that sours this relationship. Even if Hal wasn't putting it on just to manage to, play prodigal, it still is an experiential thing. They cannot go back to the innocence of their pre-battle friendship. Besides, Hal has never pretended he's not going to do that. Even in the key scene, in the middle of the play, I will banish Plump Jack. He's never been going to keep this going the way Falstaff thinks he's milking the prince. But Hal has seen sort of too much of Falstaff, and he's seen too much of the world now for this to be quite the innocent relationship that it once was. Hal leaves, and Falstaff too is forced to leave because he must go up north with Prince John's men to join Prince John's, and he's got to pick men up as he passes through different counties. So he leaves, and Bardolph leaves. Next, we see the king. We finally see the king. Not till the third act do we see the king. First play, we saw the king in the first act, first scene, really. But this time, we don't see him till the third act. See, as I said, the history side of this is fairly sidelined. Fairly sidelined. But the king can't sleep. The king is once again rehashing old worries about how he got to become king, and thinking on the things that have happened, and worrying about things. Though he does gain the good news that Glendower is dead, which means that the problem in Wales has now ended. Glendower is dead. This problem in Wales has ceased. But he is still worried about things, because that's basically what he does. He worries about things. In Somersetshire, Falstaff is coming through, and he is to meet two justices of the peace, Shallow and Silence. Shallow and Silence are meeting up because they're ready to meet Falstaff, because they have the names of the men who he's to choose from to get to join his army, or his group of men. And they're very old men, and they spend their whole time nattering about the way old people do. Nostalgia, nostalgia, nostalgia. How so-and-so, they're dead. Oh, right. You know, so they're country yokels. Country yokels, really. They don't have the wit and sparkle of the London characters. These are country bumpkins. Nice, fat, country bumpkins. As you can imagine, Falstaff will have fun with that. They meet with Falstaff, and Falstaff views the men that they have selected. They know Falstaff from their university days. So Falstaff was once upon a time a decent, promising young man. Not so much now, but once upon a time he was more than he is. They're probably less than he is because he's very much more than most. That would be all the sack. So they see the men, and these are most unassuming, useless-looking potential soldiers. But Falstaff puts them all down. Yes, okay, and he's to choose 4 of them. Falstaff, Shallow, and Silence go off to have a drink, while they're off, 2 of them, the 2 most likely men who don't want to go to the war, bribe Bardolph. But when Falstaff comes back in, Bardolph says, "I've had £3 from these 2. Oh, good to know. And Falstaff dismisses them, which surprises Shallow, because he thought they were the best of them. And Falstaff makes a great show of, well, this guy, he's going to be great, and this one, he's so small, he's like trying to aim at a knife edge, and he is so quick, he will make a wonderful retreat, he will run faster than anyone else, so I will take them. He doesn't care. He's the man who sold his last lot of soldiers and bought new ones from the prison and pocketed the money. He's also not averse to pocketing the wages of men who die. So he takes these ones off and promises to come back and visit Shallow again, because he's been working Shallow over. He can see these fat partridges, and he plans to bag a couple. So the rebels have gathered their armies, they're meeting, they're ready, and they are called by Prince John to a meeting, a parley, see if we can find some sort of agreement before we fight, see if we can come to some sort of agreement. The rebel leaders come, and they come to Prince John's tent, and Prince John makes all manner of promises that they're a bit dubious, but they're willing to believe this. And so they agree to disband their army. And as their armies are disbanded, once their armies are safely disbanded and have fled, because nobody actually wanted to fight if they didn't have to, they'd just run for it, Prince John arrests them. So no big fights in this. There's a bit of political trickery, which just goes to show that the age of chivalry is truly and utterly dead by this time. The only age of chivalry that Hotspur represented is now in pistol, which is hardly the age of chivalry, is it? Falstaff manages to take a knight prisoner, which is just as well. He wasn't going to do much else, was he? And he asks leave of the prince to travel back through where he came so that he can visit Shallow again. Prince doesn't mind. He has more important things on his mind. And so Falstaff leaves. The prince has captured his men and sending them off to execution. So that's the political side of things. Pretty much done and dusted. Nice little bow. Almost. The king is impatient for word of Hal, because he has heard that Hal he's asking his younger sons, where is Hal? And they don't know. They think maybe he's in Windsor, and okay, maybe he's in Eastcheap. Maybe he's still hanging out. But one of his advisors tells the king, do not worry about this. Do not worry, because this Hal is learning the language. He is learning the language. He is going to learn the language, and as you learn the language, you have to learn all curses and nasty words included, which once you are fluent in it, you no longer need to use. And this is what Hal is doing. He is learning the kingdom. And that he will cast this off once it is of no more use to him. But the king is quite worried that Hal is just going to descend the entire kingdom into riot and anarchy, and his poor kingdom that he has worked so hard and stressed so over will just be destroyed and will revert to the same sort of corruption that he had overthrown Richard in order to save it from. In comes word that John has been victorious without battle, and the king is overjoyed but quickly collapses, which is not good. Not good at all. Falstaff is now back with Sallow, who has invited him to dinner, and Shallow has about as much depth as his name. He's a stupid old man, and he really does believe Falstaff when Falstaff tells him all about how he is in the Prince of Wales's pocket. He is so near and dear to him that there is no way anything could possibly come between him. He will be his closest advisor, and he can confer honours on whoever he wants. And Shallow believes this, and Shallow is, ooh, this sounds good. And Shallow agrees to lend him £1,000. Well, we all know what they say about a fool and his money. The king is now lying in bed. He is ill. The crown is beside him in the bed, and he falls asleep. Hal comes in, and he says that he will sit with the king alone a while. And so the others leave. He will sit and watch with the king. While he's sitting, he notices that the crown is beside his father, and he picks it up and contemplates what having the crown has meant to his father, that it has been killing him, that the care of this, the weight of this is killing him, and that he then has to bear this after him. He then takes the crown because he thinks that his father is in such a deep sleep that he can't see that he's even breathing. And so he takes the crown with him into the next room. The king wakes, and finding himself alone, calls out, and the attendants say, so his other sons and the other lords say, are you, why am I alone? And we left the Prince of Wales with you. Well, where is he, and where's the crown? And they go seek the crown and seek the prince. The prince is in the other room, and he comes back in. The others leave, and the king upbraids him with, what, you can't wait until I'm dead? You're going to destroy my kingdom, and you're so impatient for the crown, you can't wait till I am dead. And Hal is really hurt by this. He's really hurt. He really thought his father knew him better than that. And he explains why he took the crown and how he felt, and how upset he is that his father is dying. And his father is pacified. And father and son have a heart-to-heart about this, that having got the crown and kept the crown, he is now able to give it to Hal, and that Hal can take it from his father and have the legitimacy of it, that the stain of having taken the crown from the king is washed away with his death. And the crown has now been legitimized because Henry IV has been feeling so guilty about how he got the crown all these years. And he tells Hal that Hal must make a friend of all of his friends and make peace among all the divided kingdom, and that the best way to do this is turn the aggression of these men outwards, turn it outwards to a foreign foe. So to avoid more civil brawls by focusing everyone's attention on someone over there, the frogs, the French. Don't know why they call them frogs. They don't look very froggy. They're not as though, it's not as though they're particularly weeny. They're not weeny and squishy. That frogs are weeny and squishy. These are Gauls. These are the ones that Caesar took quite. It took quite a lot of fighting for Caesar to get overcome the Gauls. So I don't know why they call them froggies. Froggies are easily squished. Boom, squish. These are more like armadillos. Seen one of them? They're like a little tank. Not like froggies. Not like froggies at all. Anyway, that's by the by. And the king who had always thought he was going to be die in the Holy Lands and go on pilgrimage, suddenly realizes that the "you will die in Jerusalem" means the Jerusalem chamber, and he asks to be taken into that chamber. Back with Falstaff. Falstaff and his friends are getting quite drunk, and they think, ooh, things are going really well. And this is going to be fun, and this is going to be great, and I've got money out of him, and we are just waiting for the king to die now. And word comes that the king has died. So, off to London. Yeah, we're going to go to the coronation. We're going to go to the coronation. Yay! Because Riot, the king of misrule, Falstaff, is now about to ascend his throne. At least that's what they think. In London, Hal, now king, but for his coronation, assures his brothers that there is nothing to worry about. The chief justice is quite worried. He's sure he's going to end up well and truly into the bad books. But Hal reassures him that everything he did, including locking him up, was right and correct, and he would not, as king, expect him to do any less to any son of his. And so the Chief Justice is reassured. His brothers are reassured. Everyone in the court is reassured that Hal, the wastrel, prince of misrule, has died, is gone, was never. And that King Henry will be the sober and sensible king that his father always wished him to be. So, at the coronation, before the coronation, Mistress Quickly and Doll Tearsheet are in a little bit of trouble. They beat a man and he has died, and now they're being arrested. See, told you, she's running a brothel, a really nasty one. So they're arrested. At the coronation, Falstaff stands and, my Jove, my king, this is wonderful. Shallow is there, all his friends are there. They're all ready to see King Hal receive Falstaff. And Hal, no longer Hal, but King Henry, tells Falstaff, I do not know you, old man. And Falstaff is stricken. But being Falstaff, he is quite capable of making good spin on this. But he is hurt. Hal tells the Chief Justice that Falstaff is to be banished 10 miles from his presence. So basically a really big restraining order. But he's to be given a pension to keep him out of mischief. And should he repent and improve, then there is a possibility of raising him up. But Falstaff is very, he's like, there must be some. Charlot is very, very, can I have my £1,000 back? Can I have my £1,000 back? Can I have 500 of them back? No, you won't need that, Hey, this was all for show. I expect to have word tonight that Hal will see me privately. It was all these people, it was all in front of this, but we know it's not. Poor old Falstaff. Anyway, that is Falstaff Part 2. And until we meet again, bye-bye.
If you would like to support this channel, come across to the Black Cockie Press website www.blackcockiepress.com.au, where you will find books and other materials to help with your writing.